Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index. It all feels a bit like after the Lord Mayor's show, doesn't it? Liverpool battled valiantly in this second leg, but they do go out on penalties to PSG. So just a small matter of potential double to focus on going forward. But we have got to look back to last night, and there's a fair few things to talk about, both on and off the field even. And here to join me as ever is the renowned and the respected David Lynch. I mean, in simple terms, David, when you try and rationalise this, over the two legs, did the better team go through?
Yeah, I just don't think you can doubt that. I thought last night was a really entertaining, very even game, whereby either side could have gone through on the night because obviously Liverpool somehow had that lead from the first leg. But if you take the two legs as a whole, the dominance PSG showed in that first one, and the fact they showed up at Anfield and they showed, for want of a better phrase, balls to come to Anfield and play in the way that they did. So, they made a real even game out of it. Maybe Liverpool marginally edged it, but I just thought they were incredibly impressive across both legs as a whole. And, it didn't cost Liverpool anything that they were poor in the first leg, but, you just feel in terms of fairness, it's hardly a smash and grab on their part, is it, to have gone through. And I thought a good reminder really of Liverpool, of the level they're kind of aspiring to now that they're back in the Champions League this season and hopefully will be going forward. And this is kind of early days, isn't it, under Arne Slot? So I don't think it could be too kind of heartbroken. It's not, I think I look back really, one of the more disappointing Champions League exits, I think, was the one in 2020, just because I think at that point Liverpool were the best team in Europe and they should have gone on and shown it, but obviously got mistakes cost them against Atletico Madrid in the end. But this time around, you knew, that there are clear little areas of strengthening in this squad. So I don't think it's too heartbreaking. And for me, would not be surprised at all if PSG went on and went on to win the competition this year. Because I mean, we've seen the other side who were stated as contenders in Real Madrid. We've seen them at Anfield. I don't think they were anywhere near that level. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if they won the whole thing.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprising at all. And the comments are flying in. Red Armchair supporter there saying we were as good as them for most of the game, which is, I think, a fair assessment. And we'll have a little breakdown of that at the same time. I think, Arne Slot, you could tell there was a bit of pain in his face during the post-match interviews, and understandably, like the rest of us. But just before we break down the game into almost segments, let's just have a little listen to what Arne Slot said after the game.
Looked at the scoreboard and we were 1-0 down. Over 90 minutes, I don't think we deserve to lose this game of football today. Over 180 minutes, maybe it was deserved that we went to overtime. In overtime, I thought Paris Saint-Germain was a bit better than us, so in this half hour. And then it comes down to penalties, and they scored 4, we 2, and we lost.
Always matter of fact, as he normally is, Arne Slot. But he is right in essence of different from the first leg. We did have good periods, even small periods of domination, it's fair to say, in the 90 minutes, didn't we?
Yeah, really. I mean, obviously, I thought the first half was very kind of end-to-end of a basketball game. But then I thought the second half of the game in particular, I thought Liverpool were absolutely fantastic. They limited PSG to barely anything and kept creating chances, obviously hit the post when that marginal offside goes against them. But they were the dominant force in the second half in particular, which is why you feel over the course of the 90 minutes that Liverpool were just edging it as kind of the better side, really. Obviously, as the manager says, and I agree with him, I thought extra time, we saw the benefits for PSG of having rested so many players at the weekend as they were able to do. Liverpool didn't have that luxury, and so that started to tell towards the end of that. But the 90 minutes, as I say, it wouldn't have felt like a travesty if Liverpool had nicked a 1-1 draw at full time and obviously gone through then on 2-1 on aggregate in the end. That wouldn't have felt like they'd absolutely nicked it, because I thought they were very, very good for large parts of this game. So, a lot of positives in there as well. And I'm talking about how good PSG are and that Liverpool, are aspiring to that level. But on another day, could quite easily knock them out. For starters, if they'd have just popped the penalties in, that can happen and you can win them. But also just on the basis of the performance on the night, Like I said, a draw would have been fine if Liverpool had nicked the game itself, and obviously gone through on aggregate again would have been fine. So it's fine margins as much as anything else. And I thought a lot of positives in the performance, and Liverpool far better in terms of showing their actual level versus what they showed in the first leg.
He did allude to sort of extra time, and I don't know if you felt the same, but almost in extra time, it felt like the longer it went on and the more subs that came on. Normally, we were always talking about Arne Slot subs making huge positive impacts. It just seemed the longer extra time went on, we almost just, I won't say stopped playing, but it did feel like we were hanging on in that half an hour.
Yeah, I think the first time possibly all season, actually, that Arne Slot's subs made the team worse, to be honest. I didn't think Curtis Jones played well when he came on. I thought Darwin Núñez was poor. Gakpo didn't look fit at all to me. So, I thought Kwanzaa did quite well, actually, in difficult circumstances. But obviously, it still makes you slightly worse as a team because Trent is so important in terms of progressing the ball. So, I don't think the subs kind of worked. And as I said, I thought the fitness element came into it then. The PSG had basically had that whole rest on the weekend and looked a lot fresher as the game went on. And their subs were very strong and kept their level up as well. So that was important. So, that was kind of a little bit of a problem for Liverpool, is that towards the end of the game, they kind of let their foot off the gas. And, it's supposed to be a benefit, isn't it, having an extra half an hour in your home ground, and yet Liverpool looked the likelier to concede, really, and we're kind of hanging on for penalties in the end.
Yeah, and listen, people, the comments are absolutely flying in. I have got no chance of keeping up with these, so I'll try and just highlight a few. Red for Life, they're saying maybe to not be able to score at Anfield over 120 minutes is a bit concerning. Is it fair to say, though, David, on that point, small margins as in there's a block from Mo Salah, there's ones especially early doors that was so close. Jarell Quansah almost feels like a lick of paint on the post away from going in as well.
Yeah, and you've got to say it is fine margins. I don't think you can say that's a massive concern because Liverpool scored an awful lot of goals. I mean, we will go on, I imagine, to kind of talk about the attack and what it kind of said about that. But it's, PSG, for example, they only score one goal in this tie, and it comes about through a mistake. And you think about all the attacking quality and the moments they had. Should they be concerned going forward? I'm not sure. So it's just football sometimes as well. We can't kind of explain away every aspect of every game. Sometimes ball goes in, sometimes ball doesn't go in. It's kind of it is a little bit like that, and sometimes you got to kind of accept that, really. But it's I thought Liverpool did enough to create the chances there. And I mean, those first couple of chances, Salah, early doors, the block on the line's unbelievable. I thought Nuno Mendes, fantastic over two legs, by the way. And then he passes one wide of the post. One of those goes in. I think, no matter how mentally strong or how good PSG are, that would have seriously damaged them if Liverpool had gone 2-0 up on aggregate. So, unfortunately, it didn't go in, and most of the time for Mo Salah this season, they have been going in. It's just that, like I say, that's football.
Yeah, it does just come down to those moments. And there are positives from last night. I know it's not easy to see them, people, but I do want to talk through a few individual performances. Do want to just listen to the great man between the sticks, because Alisson had a great game, but just listening to what he said about his counterpart, I think is worth noting here.
Very little to split the two teams. You were wonderful in the first leg. He was wonderful tonight to keep Liverpool at bay. Donnarumma.
Yeah, he did really well. He's a great guy, a nice lad, really humble. I know him from a long time ago playing against him. And this is football. Anything can happen. This is Champions League. The best teams in the world are playing, and we just have to keep on going for the rest of the season.
And that's the key now.
I mean, Donnarumma, we always knew when it went to penalties, just the sheer size of him, that was going to be a task. But I think it's fair to say almost no doubt in the first leg, but even in the second leg, this one, Alisson makes some brilliant saves and a real shout for man of the match for us again.
Yeah, he also quite clearly likes Madri, judging by his outfit and look he was going for yesterday. But he was, I thought you saw, Donnarumma for me outside of the penalties. Really, obviously he's fantastic there. He wins the tie for PSG, but I thought he was generally terrible across the two legs. I mean, he lets in the one shot on target he faces in the first leg, and it was a bomb scare all night at Anfield. Really, it looked so uncomfortable with the ball at his feet. You know, a couple of decent saves in there as well, to be fair to him. But I thought generally he kind of was more of a negative than a positive for PSG right up until the penalties, really. And I think you saw, you know, when you see a goalkeeper who's as highly rated as that playing like that, you know, it just shows you again, I think, how good Alisson is and how important he is for Liverpool. And, you know, we talked about kind of uncertainty over his future going forward. But I mean, at least one more season I'd like to see him, because he's right there at the top level still, isn't he? And kind of proved it in this tie. And one player you can say absolutely unlucky to not be progressing to the next round, because he 100% did his job.
Yeah, in a team of the tournament should be shooting whatever happens going forward. And I mean, we're talking about specific players here, and he's on the screen there, Mo Salah. I don't know if this is harsh, but it's just felt a little bit recently, maybe, and in this competition. I don't know whether he's lacking support. That's too harsh. But just to talk about his counterparts, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I was messaging you during the game. I was surprised he started, and I thought Diogo Jota had a bit of a stinker again.
Yeah, he just looked the wrong pick, didn't he? I mean, Jota himself acknowledged in the pre-match press conference that his level just hasn't been there this season. You know, outside of the injury, hasn't played well generally anyway. You know, and I think he's never been absolutely perfect in terms of what he brings in build-up, but what he has been is an absolutely ruthless finisher. But doesn't even seem to be getting the chances at the moment. So he's a net negative really for the team when he's on the pitch. And again, as was the case in the first leg, I just thought PSG quicker, stronger at the back than him, smarter, and just ate him up, really. I think he wins 1 out of 9 ground duels. That sums it up, really. Any 50-50, he was coming off second best, and didn't really get the chances to shoot or anything like that. So he was just contributing very, very little. And it was a strange pick, I suppose, because it was just maybe Slot thought we're going to have more of the ball, more of the chances in this game, and therefore if I have a chance where it's one-on-one, I want Jota on the end of it. But it didn't kind of play out like that, really. He wasn't the one on the end of the chances, and he just wasn't doing very much, really. And it's been a really tough season for him. I wonder. You'd like to think it's just that injury, and maybe he can come back and maybe find a bit of strength before the end of this season, come back next season and be better. But it just hasn't worked for him. And I thought he looked very short of the kind of elite level last night.
And I suppose even for the others, I mean, I think you've got to separate the penalty miss aside, but I think Nunes gave something a bit more. But I kind of, as the game went on, like we said, with extra time, it was fading. But did it sum it up last night? Do you remember that ball over the top where Nunes and Diaz both went for it and then both stopped? And it did that kind of sum up the lack of synergy between Salah and anyone else in that front line?
Yeah, I thought with Nunes in that situation, to be fair to him, I think he recognises that he's probably offside in that moment. So he's trying to leave it to Diaz, but obviously Diaz is not alive to that fact, and they both leave it in the end. So, I didn't think Nunes was much better than Jota when he came on. He maybe added a little bit more energy to the press because he's a bit quicker over the ground, and that helps, and maybe put a bit of doubt in their minds because he'd done what he'd done in the first leg. But I just think it's so telling, isn't it, that you see what he does in the first leg. He scores a goal against Southampton, and yet the manager still does not trust him to start. He doesn't think he is, because he knows, and this is a fair criticism if this is in the manager's mind, is that Nunes can be good, but then he can also be terrible, and that inconsistency has been the theme of his Liverpool career. So the fact he doesn't trust him in this one because he's hit a little purple patch it's just not really a surprise, is it, really? And, I just think it just shows, doesn't it, between Jota and Nunes, how poor they were over the two legs, generally speaking. I just think it's an area Liverpool have to strengthen this summer for me, really. It's good enough what they've got in forward areas to win the Premier League, but when you get to this real top elite level, they both just got eaten alive, really. And so Liverpool need better in that area if they're going to be any better next season, and these games kind of spelled that out.
Yeah, there's a fair bit in the column around, or the comments around Jota and what might be needed as well, which we'll come on to. But do want to talk a few positives as well, because we did say that's where we start. two in the middle, especially. I thought Szoboszlai and McAllister had really good games, and it was such a notable difference when those two went off. Do you think they stood out last night?
Yeah, totally agree. I think it's a big part of the reason that Liverpool had a bit more control in midfield than they did in the first. Like, these two were just absolutely outstanding, really. I mean, I love McAllister to bits, love watching him. I just think I think he's the integral midfielder of the three, really. Yeah. He's just absolutely vital because he's so good in everything that he does, and he's just so intelligent. And yeah, I thought he was brilliant, winning duels. Keeping the ball. I think he creates more chances than anybody else in the match. So 5 chances. So shows you how good he is. And Liverpool were much worse when he went off. And then Szoboszlai again, he just works and works and works, doesn't he? Picked up some nice pockets. Yeah. He looked really frustrated when he went off. But again, I just get why the manager's doing it, because there's a cup final at the weekend. You can't, and you don't want him running into the ground so that he gets an injury, because everyone will be throwing their arms up then and asking questions. So that's clearly kind of sports science motivated decision rather than a selection one, but it did make Liverpool a little bit worse, unfortunately. And again, maybe that just speaks to, again, this is one area where, you know, Liverpool can kind of add something, and you know, in central midfield, if you can add one more midfielder who's just of that level and the manager really trusts, then that would be that would be a real positive.
It's funny, isn't it? It's going back to the summer. I know it's a sliding doors moment, so it never happened. But it was quite interesting at a few tweets I saw, which makes you think if Zubimendi had got over the line, maybe that midfield controller would have been so valuable last night at that in times. But hey ho, it is what it is that way.
Yeah, just to come in on that, I just think it's interesting though, because for me, I kind of look at it and I'm not sure kind of someone of Zubimendi's profile now is exactly what kind of Liverpool are crying out for. For me, you know, having him in the squad yesterday, I felt like Liverpool could have done with someone who can get around a little bit more. I mean, McAllister, for all his strengths and his brilliance, he's not the quickest off the mark, is he? So, you know, and you don't really want to be putting too many of those in your squad if possible. I don't know if someone who can cover a little bit more ground would be better. But it's an interesting one to see what they go for, if you know, this summer, because I think they will probably add in central midfield, but it's going to kind of be, it'll be interesting, won't it, to see if they go for something similar to a Zubimendi, or they're looking for a completely different profile now.
Yeah, if the nerds, the geeks, whatever they call them with the laptops, can work out how to clone Alexis McAllister, I think that would be the best thing we could do this summer, but we'll see what happens there. And this one, I mean, I'm hoping, we all have to hope and pray, Trent and Ibu, that I think if I've heard it right this morning, Arne Slot last night mentioned that not expecting Trent to play for Sunday. And it looks like it could be quite a bad one from the replays. But Ibu, I thought he was holding his groin, but suggestions that Arne Slot says, I have to ask, so he didn't confirm it 100%, but thinks it's just tiredness. That's got to be the hope. We can just get one of them on the field for Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, he did look a little bit like kind of just cramped, Canate. He didn't look too downbeat when he went off. So hopefully he'll be involved, and that'll be really important because he's been so good this season. And Trent, yeah, I just think you look at the kind of injury there, the way he's turned his ankle, there's just absolutely no chance we see him on Sunday. I mean, the real question is, with his contract expiring, how many more games are left? 10 games left, is it, this season? Yeah. How many more of those will he be available for? It's an interesting one, but he's that's a real blow. And again, I think that really hurt Liverpool when he went off. I thought Quanta did a fine job when he came on, but he's not Trent in terms of progressing the ball. Albeit he's probably a little bit better in the air. He was unlucky with a couple of those chances, but that there's just no denying that's a blow. But still think Liverpool have got enough to go into this final and go and win it.